It's May the 16th. I'm out caging tomatoes today. I don't have enough cages to do the tomatoes I have this year, and the cages I do have are a little shorter than I wanted. So I went and bought a roll of concrete wire. That's what this is. I got it from Home Depot. It's $107 for 150 feet long roll. It's 5 feet tall. I cut these, I guess it's 72 inches from here all the way around to here. An extra 3 inches on each side of that to tie them together with. And it'll give me a cage when it's assembled that's about 2 feet in diameter. I thought I'd show you how I'm doing it. I'm not using anything to tie it together. Not using zip ties, not using baling twine, not using tie wire or anything like that. I just use half of a square that I cut in half to cut these out to hold them together. And I thought I'd show you how to do that, and then what I'm going to do when I cage the tomatoes. Okay, here's my wire. This is from about the middle of the roll. So it's not sprung out way wide, it's not sprung together real close, so this is actually going to be a pretty easy one. I basically just overlap them, one on top of the other, doesn't matter really which way. And I start off in the middle, like this. And you can do this with your fingers, but you end up, if you have to do a bunch of them, this one roll of wire is going to end up with 23 cages that are full size, and then one that's not quite the same size as the other. But I start off in the middle, and I just make one loop around. Oh, and I just broke that one, so that's going to happen sometimes. But this has got it, you know, tied together enough that I can stand it up and work at it and not have to be bent over. All right, I don't know how well it's going to show up. We're going to try this, and hopefully you can see it. So all I'm going to do, and if you look at my pliers, if anybody's ever cut a live wire, that's what happens. So these are pretty worthless for wire cutters, but and I didn't do that. That was someone else that was using them did that. But anyway, it makes for a nice place to grab a hold of that wire without cutting the wire in half. So what I'm going to do here, hold these together, kind of bend this up. All the way back around and point it down. Do the same thing here, except for instead of going up first, I'm going to go down first to wrap around the wire. Oh, broke that one too. So I'm just going to be bad luck to break them. Set this back a little bit so that you can see it. Normally I would be standing in front of this. It wouldn't quite be so awkward, but if I stand in front of it, you can't see it. What I'm trying to do is have these pointing so they're not really pointing straight out inside the cage and not pointing outside the cage, because I've got to handle them and I got to pick tomatoes out of these. So I want to try to avoid scratching myself, or even worse, scratching my girls. Something like that. So I won't make you watch this because you can see how it's going to end up turning out. Won't make you watch the rest of them, but that's how I'm going to do the whole cage. In fact, if I walk right over here, I can show you a couple that are already Alright, so this is sitting on my trailer getting ready to go out to the garden. I don't know if that's going to focus. There we go. That's focusing. So this is what they're going to look like completed. And then I'll walk out and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them in the garden in a few minutes. Alright, so these are the tomatoes that we're going to cage. I've done some already, but I haven't done these. And there's a couple things I'm going to do. I get down here under the tomato and look. I'm going to prune off a lot of these lower limbs. I don't want any part of the plant touching the dirt. And just get rid of all the lower stuff. Voila. Something like that. Nothing magic to it, just try to keep it out of the dirt. After that, I'm gonna take my my hoe. I'm gonna hoe up the ground here, get rid of some of these weeds, and then I'm gonna put a layer of mulch down, and then the cage goes on top of that. So that's what we're gonna do. Alright, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to do hoeing one-handed, but this is a hook and crook hoe, and it does an excellent job of getting rid of the little fine weeds right here on the top. Oh, I guess it would help if I pointed at the hoe. Go a little faster and be a little more effective with two hands, but even with one it's working okay. See, now that I cut the limbs under the tomato, I can get right here up next to the plant because I can see what I'm doing. So I will, there's the before, there's the after. And then I'll just switch over to the other side of the plant and do this side. Now for some mulch. Alright, again, I'm going to try to use a shovel one-handed, but this is what I'm using. This is some partially composted sawdust and horse manure that I get from a horse farm that's here in Georgia. Let's see what I can do with one hand. If this works out well, then good. If it doesn't, I'll do some hands. All right. Now I've got a cage here. Just center the tomato plant in it. I'll do it with one hand. Alright, so there's one cage. Let's go find another one. Voila. Magic. It's two caged tomato plants. Now what I'll eventually do, if anybody's ever used cages in a very windy place, they know that the cages are pretty easy to blow over. A lot of people stake them down. Some people will drive a fence post up next to them. What I found works for me is right across the tops of the cages, I'll put a piece of scrap lumber and tie them to the cages so that all the cages are tied together. And that seems to work for me. Very little effort. Just whatever kind of scrap wood I can find. Some string or some baling twine or something like that. And that has always kept them from blowing over for me. So anyway, that's how I cage my tomatoes. Won't make you watch the rest of it, but hopefully you learned something. Thanks.